Hey, good afternoon, everyone. This is Jeffrey Schab. I am the founder and CEO of Protequus, a engineering and data science firm here in Austin, Texas, and it's a pleasure to be here. I realize that this is kind of a suboptimal way to meet for the first time, but do look forward to being back together next year. And again, thank you, David, for allowing me this opportunity to be here today and to participate in this conference. This is our first year in the conference and look forward to continuing to see its growth in the years to come. So before I jump into my presentation, I want to share a little video with you, which I think does a really nice job connecting our customers to the why behind the development of the Nightwatch Smart Halter. So I thank you for your time to watch this and look forward to speaking with you momentarily.
I was 25 when I finally got my first horse, and his name was Snoop. He was just such a kind, gentle, patient horse, and we had a true bond. It was August 25th of 2013, early in the morning. It was a Sunday morning, and my phone rang, and it was my horse trainer. And at first I was just gonna let it go to voicemail because it was really early. And then reality started to set in. And I knew that he wasn't calling just to touch base. Something was wrong. So I picked up the phone and he said, "I don't know how to tell you this, but Snoop is gone." It's one of the hardest days of my life. Snoop was more than just another horse. He was my friend, he was my partner in crime, and I've never seen him again. Snoop died from a really severe colic episode in the middle of the night, and despite having caretakers that lived above the barn, they didn't hear him thrashing, and he died a really painful death, and he didn't deserve that. A few weeks after Snoop's passing, Jeff and I were speaking, and he just said that he was tired of we as an equine community just accepting the fact that horses get injured or pass while humans aren't around. And if humans could intervene quick enough, they could have a very different outcome. So that's how Nightwatch started to come to be. A few months ago, I got a new horse. His name's Sherlock, and I'm so grateful to have Nightwatch on him so that I do have that peace of mind when I'm not there. This is something that truly moves the needle on equine survival. This is something that has the potential to save your horse's life so that you don't have to go through what I did.
So I appreciate you taking the time to watch that. Who you saw in that video is Wade, and I think he absolutely captures the spirit of many of us who love these animals. And the truth is, when we're with our animals, we do everything other than bubble wrap them. But unfortunately, protecting them overnight is a challenge, and we've historically relied on prayer and hope. And with the advent of technology, I really think we have an opportunity to not only change the outcome of these devastating events overnight, we have the ability for the first time to capture empirical evidence of what is happening and to leverage that for better health and survival outcomes. So 17 days after the passing of Snoop, I created a company called Protequus. And the name Protequus may be self-evident, but it's a derivative of two words, protection and the Latin root for horse, equus. And so here at Protequus, we are committed to introducing value-add solutions, ultimately for the safety and protection of these animals that we love. But we do have a much bigger vision, and that vision is rooted in the data that we are capturing. And so we truly are committed to disrupting and transforming the very large global equine industry through data science and predictive analytics. And I feel uniquely qualified to lead this charge for several reasons. One, I am an equestrian. I grew up showing horses all my life and was fortunate to win 2 world titles in the discipline in which I competed back in 2011 and 2012. I'm also an engineer, a biomedical engineer, and it's given me a true appreciation for objectivity and empirical evidence. Prior to beginning this journey in 2013, I spent 15 years in Manhattan developing and building network of medical marketing agencies to support the pharma and biotech industry. And I specialized in oncology and immunology, where there is really very little gray matter. It is black and white. And in mid 2000s, I started one of my first companies, which was a data science firm in which we wanted to create objectivity into understanding peer influence among clinicians. And so since that time, I feel a lot of things in my life have fallen into place, and it's brought me to this intersection where I get to now apply my passion for the horses, my respect and expertise for data science, with enough appetite to take a swing at the bat and see if we can actually move the needle on survival through early referral intervention on these horses. And so let's talk a little bit about the problem, because you can't have a quality solution unless you can clearly define the problem. And for us, it's simple. We wanted to first tackle equine colic, which, as many of you know, is the leading natural cause of death in these horses. In the US, on average, about 125 horses will die of this each day, largely overnight while these animals are unsupervised. Globally, that's a little over 300 animals each day. And I don't know about you, but I just think that is an appalling number. Can we save all of them? Absolutely not. But can we do better through early referral and intervention because we can identify the early signs of colic or generalized equine distress? I believe we absolutely can. Let's talk a little bit about the challenges of early referral and intervention today. Well, if we're fortunate enough to be with our animals during the day, or we have caretakers that are with them for much of the day, we need to remember that horses are prey animals, meaning they do not want to show signs of weakness or pain or distress. And so you hear the term about the stoic animals. That is very, very true. You can look at an animal, they're not blowing hard, they're bright eye, but meanwhile, they have their internal challenges of overcoming pain and distress. And so we're automatically plagued with this challenge of having to rely on subjective, anecdotal information to identify distress. And the other reality is these animals spend at least half their day unsupervised, largely overnight. Even if we have night watchmen in our barns at night, it is nearly impossible to identify the early signs unless you're with that animal 24/7. And so historically, the standard of care for identifying colic has relied on intermittent, subjective behavior observation only by us caretakers. And while that's been good, it's not good enough. And we believe that with technology, we can actually have real-time objective analysis of both biometric and behavior data that these animals cannot suppress. And so I welcome you to the Nightwatch Smart Halter. Our premise is very simple. We want to bring down the time to intervention to increase the outcomes in these horses. When I say outcomes, I mean both health and performance outcomes. I don't think there is a vet on the planet who would disagree with the premise that if we can decrease the time to intervention for equine distress, we can ultimately improve the health and performance outcomes of these animals. And so how do we work? Well, within the leather crown of this breakaway halter is 2.1 ounces of technology. 60% of that volume and most of that weight are due to the 3 rechargeable lithium polymer batteries that give you about 12 hours before it needs to be recharged. There are 4 PCBs with a variety of electronic components, including microprocessors, transceivers, and sensors. Every Nightwatch Smarter has its own SIM card. It works across cellular networks, as well as the ability to connect to Wi-Fi networks. With regard to the sensor technology, we have the ability to monitor in real time the animal's heart rate, respiration, and through the use of a 9-axis IMU, their activity, motion, and posture. Now you should be asking yourself, how do you get the heart rate and respiration at the pole of the animal? And I'm very happy to say we have been able to crack the code on the application of ultra-wideband impulse radar to do this. This is a very, very safe and low energy way of measuring physical displacements and objects over time. So think of this like sonar, meaning you will send out a signal, it will reflect or bounce off something, and you're going to measure the time of flight for those signals to go to and from that object. So what we are doing is we are measuring literally vascular flow through the capillary bed each second, and we're able to see that vasodilation and constriction because of the time of flight, which gives us the heart rate, and a similar analogy for the soft tissue for respiration. So by monitoring the biometrics and the behavior of the animal, we are able to identify any unusual activity that likely correlates with pain or distress. And when a threshold is crossed that is set by the user, they can receive a text alert, a phone call alert, and an email alert. There are no limitations to the number of caretakers who could be assigned to an account. There are no number of limitations to the number of people who can receive alerts. The other incredible thing about this technology is that a single halter can be utilized on multiple horses. This is a new feature of the last 3 months, and this has been really, really wonderful for veterinarians and large facility managers that have the device on the shelf, ready to go when they need it. Speaking of trainers, we've gotten a lot of feedback that the objective insight they get into the animal's well-being, again, largely overnight, is just as important as these automated alerts. So we have an iOS and an Android app available, and it provides access to information at your fingertips, not only just on the biometrics, but also on the behavior, as well as GPS and geolocation. And so what's our secret sauce? Well, number one, we believe it's our AI-driven software stack. Nightwatch is a smart device because it learns every animal's normal, and it measures deviation from normal on a 10-point scale. Now, when we talk about how do we do this so efficiently, so quickly, it's because we have packed so much technology into the crown at the point of care. A lot of wearable devices are data aggregators that put information to the cloud. All the analysis and processing is done in the cloud, and then a result is put back on the device or to a remote user. That is very inefficient in terms of battery and time. And so truly Nightwatch is an edge computing solution where we collect the data, process and analyze the data, make decisions, and then only when the device is on the charger do we offload the information to AWS for cloud storage for larger big data analytic exercises. And lastly, it's the Equine Distress Index. The EDI is a proprietary feature of Nightwatch. And think of EDI as like a FICO score for your horse's health, meaning it's a number from 1 to 10, where the closer to 1, the happier and healthier the animal is, and the closer to 10, the further they are from their normal physiologic baseline. And so this is very, very important because we did not want to have to challenge our customers to interpret variability in heart rate, to interpret novel event duration, novel event counts, activity index. We put all that information into one score. So every 5 minutes we calculate a score driven by the biometrics, the behavior, and pre-existing risk factors that you put into your horse's profile. And so this number is available through the app, and this is the foundation of our smart mode. Anything below 4 is likely low distress. 4 to 7 is kind of that let's watch and wait and evaluate what's happening with the animal. And anything above 7 is probably a good indication that the animal is starting to go into a state where you need to put eyes and hands on the animal. And so illustratively, what you see here on the left is what a normal EDI score. It's a 1.7 last reported, average of 1.2 over 12 hours. Pretty normal. You can see slight variability in the heart rate, pretty flat respiration. And as far as an activity score, very low as well. Now, when I say activity, what we're presenting here is the duration of novel events. Another key feature of Nightwatch is we do not process every piece of information that we define as normal or good. That is parsed to the side. We do a deep dive at the point of care on anything that's abnormal to start asking the questions, is my animal in distress? What's the probability of distress being defined as it's a novel event not seen before? And how does that get presented over time? On the right-hand side, This is an example of an animal that may be in distress. You see a little more variability in the heart rate, the activity, again, pretty modest, but the EDI score is very, very high. And the question should be, well, why is it so high when everything else looks so normal? And this is a key component of Nightwatch. There's so much going on behind the scenes that we don't present in the app. Ultimately, we want to keep it simple to answer the question, is my animal in distress? And in this case, we would say, strong possibility the animal's in distress, please get to them. So we launched this product about a year ago, and we launched it to horse owners. And since that time, we've learned quite a bit. And we've learned that veterinarians, as well as trainers and breeders, have very different use cases. So on the left with owners, a lot of them have their pleasure of performance horses, and they're worried about that overnight distress. Others are just interested in the general wellness of the animal. But imagine a veterinarian. They don't have the luxury of necessarily conducting a learning period for every animal that comes into the clinic. These animals are already in distress. So how can the Nightwatch Smart Halter serve as almost a telemetry or a telehealth solution where you can put it on the animal, gather information immediately, and have objective insight in real time to their biometrics and their general activity to make decisions. So the device is not only utilized in the clinic, but we have veterinarians connecting us to those horse owners with high risk or high value animals who likely need an extra set of eyes or ears. And in the middle are the trainers and breeders. We just conducted 2 studies, one at Cal Poly and another one at Scottsdale Equine Repro Center, to help us have confidence in our technology to answer the question, how likely is the Smart Halter in predicting the onset of patrician in stage 1? As many of you know, there are 3 stages to labor. The first stage is approximately 3 to 4 hours. And during that time, you start to see evidence of distress in the mare. You see increase in heart rate, respiration. She's getting up and down more often. She's acting unusual. So that is the perfect storm for technology like the Smart Halter to say something is outside the norm. It likely is a pain or distress event. Get to that animal. So we've been very fortunate to have the support of both the equestrian community as well as the tech community. Many years ago, Forbes did an initial article on us, and then they did a follow-on article as the technology matured, in which they said Nightwatch is one of the most sophisticated IoT devices they've ever seen. A pretty powerful statement from a leading technology analyst. And I've been fortunate to meet with this author and have him play with the device and explain what is unique about it. Because while our application of this technology to horses is very niche, it has a much broader application. And so when we look to the future, our focus today remains on equine distress assessment in these animals. We will bring our product outside North America next year. We will start to be looking at performance metrics, not just health metrics. And eventually, we want to be able to leverage the data that we're collecting so that we can have a true preventative medicine model for these animals. But at the same time, there are many other animals, companion animals, livestock that could benefit from a mobile adaptive IoT solution. And we believe that the companion animals are likely our next area of growth. The pet wearable market is a $3 billion market today with a CAGR of 23% projected to go over $12 billion by 2026. That is an incredible opportunity for us to do 2 things. One is to be able to leverage the proof of principle we have in our horses into the companion animals to bring relevancy and hopefully research dollars back to the horses. But it also allows us to just change animal health as a whole. Coming from human health, where we are restricted by HIPAA, FDA guidelines, and a lot of others, we have such a unique ability with the animal health market to leapfrog advances in science and technology in a more efficient manner. So who are we today? Today, I like to say we're an equine science, health monitoring, wearable tech company. But the truth is, we have a much bigger vision. And that is, we are going to become the leading AI, IoT-enabled biosensor business for animal health. And at the core of that is the data. I don't want to just sell cool halters. I want to disrupt animal health through data. And so we remain laser focused on not losing sight of that. So having customers that are sticky, having customers for the long time who use their device on animals so that we can correlate our data with clinical outcomes is paramount. So obviously we have some of the brightest minds online today, and I invite all of you. We are a small army. We are based in Austin, Texas. Our R&D manufacturing fulfillment is out of New York. But as mentioned, we are growing, and we want to bring our technology outside North America next year. So I invite any of you who are interested in joining us on this journey. We are speaking with value-add resellers. We are speaking with pharma companies who can help us elevate the research protocols that we want to implement. And we're about to embark on a Series A round of funding. And so it is going to take a village to disrupt this market. And we have only begun to scratch the surface, but I'm very proud of my team. And so if any of you are interested, I invite you to contact me following this presentation in the weeks and months to follow. And so I thank you for your time. And I'd like to conclude with one final video, which shares some insights from a veterinary perspective about how technology has such disruptive power in the equine industry moving forward.
It's been great for us using Nightwatch at our clinic. We have used it on everything from pleural pneumonia cases to laminitis to colics. It gives us a lot of information without a whole lot of effort to get the information and without disturbing the horse. And it's really nice to know that horse's baseline for where they're at.
Establishing a pattern and being able to find that pattern before it becomes a crisis situation, a death prevention situation is highly beneficial to the client, to the practitioner, to the industry in total.
Having that information is extremely important, especially in a hospital atmosphere. Even though we might be checking on the horses every 2 hours, or even if we have someone there all the time, you can know that if something's wrong immediately. It's important.
The fact that Nightwatch can learn a horse's normal and then kind of alert you to their abnormals, that's massive. Also, just being able to monitor their vitals. Horses they're prey animals. They don't want to show signs of distress.
I love putting the Halter on my acute colics because I can monitor them very easily. Even if I'm in the clinic, doing other things, even if I'm right there with them, I know what their heart rate is without ever even disturbing them.
Early referral is crucial. For those horses that get to the horse show and always colic, then I think they would benefit greatly from something like the Halter. If they have that Halter and they have that device to tell them, oh, something's wrong, he's getting up and down and his heart rate's elevated, then I think that would be, extremely helpful in that situation.
Intermittent colic is absolutely underdiagnosed, and so much of this happens during the hours that we're not observing the horse. To have a system to observe horses in the periods that humans like to have their sleep, and to have evaluation of horses during those periods is very important.
During the middle of the night, it's easy for me to just look and check on everybody real easily. It's been a great attribute for us to have.
That early intervention, when they're starting to have an elevated heart rate, when they're starting to get some sort of sign that there's something just not right there, that early intervention makes a huge difference to their final outcome.
I have some Nightwatch halters, and the maker of the leather, personally, I think he's one of the best in the business.
Friedman's harness and leather, it's outstanding. It's top-notch quality. It really has some great points where it can break away. It's a great product, and Friedman's and Nightwatch combining is a perfect combination.
You're just scratching the surface with Nightwatch, and the future is very, very bright for all horse owners and practitioners.
To be able to see in real time what the horse's behavior is and knowing what's normal and what's not normal, I think it's such a great idea and such a great product.